It's Friday, baby, and we are back with wins of the week with making money on Benzinga Pro. I'm Jonathan Mallard. Ryan Faluna is here with us again to show you some of the best plays this week. We even have something in play right now on Benzinga Pro. Let's do this. Ryan, happy Friday, sir.
Happy Friday. We are almost at mice down, drinks up time.
Absolutely. And so on this session, we've got wins of the week, this weekly Friday program that we do. And we had some amazing exclusive news items for this week that we're going to get to. But how about this one that we were just looking at a minute ago? I think it was TCAT.
The TCAT.
Yeah, TCAT.
Yeah. So TCAT here. So this is a NFT play. And this is just an amazing day trade opportunity today. There are actually two here. So you can see the one level that we had at 275. This was a level that was put in on a gigantic, here, let me see if I can, let me zoom in. I know before you scold me, Jonathan, let me zoom in here. All right. So what you're seeing right down here is a huge volume bar. And in fact, that volume bar is actually overlaid on the price bar because it's so huge. And what happens is this, huge volume, push this up, set a level at 275, and then the stock pulls back in. I can't stress enough how normal this behavior is, right? Because some people, when they like to take oh, there we go. So this just broke as I was babbling. Sorry about that. Okay, let me set this trade up for you. I'm not in this right now because I want to show you folks, but this one was a monster. It sets this level here in the morning and then takes this level out on volume. Now with this, we had, what was the news catalyst here today, Jonathan? Remind me, you just told me about that. Shares of several Chinese stocks are trading higher following reports indicating Chinese authorities are preparing to give U.S. regulators full access to auditing reports of most of the companies listed on American exchanges. So this is really awesome because this basically says that Chinese companies are now going to be held to the same scrutiny that American companies were in terms of reporting. This is very, very helpful. This actually lit several different Chinese stocks. And so when you have a catalyst like that, that's important because when a stock makes a high and then comes back in a little bit, there's a chance that it actually remakes a new high. And in fact, sometimes when it comes back in after that news item, it sucks in shorts. So what happens is when you start taking out the day highs and you start pushing higher, those shorts sweat more and more and more. And then all of a sudden there's a race to cover.
Right.
That's exactly what you're seeing right here. So the first spot here is 275, right?
I hate to be that guy, but we got to zoom in some more, man. I feel like Jason right now.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't zoom the chart. Like I don't know what, I'm not necessarily sure what to do here. It doesn't zoom the chart.
Okay.
What are you having trouble seeing?
Well, it's just that it's very narrow. It needs to be wider. But whatever. We'll work with it.
Here we go.
There we go.
There we go. Jonathan, we will make things happen. Don't you worry about that.
I'm very needy.
So anyway, so right here, we create this high. It actually takes this high out a few minutes later. It really only gives a 10-cent pop. That's still tradable, by the way, for day trading. I trade 10-cent pops. I try to get 4 or 5 or 6 of them to line up and have a nice day. So a 10-cent pop is still tradable. But the huge move here is right here later on in the afternoon. And the reason that you can discern this, like we're looking at it in retrospect, right? So in the moment, what you should be looking for, because you're not going to have all of this price data, is your volume. And you'll see here that at 205, this is a 5-minute chart. Let me actually see if I can get you the 1-minute chart. So you can see it actually ran up here, came back down, and then busted through here. So the time is actually 1:58. At 1:58, this busts through and it holds this level. And then all of a sudden, this volume down here, this is what you should be watching, starts to pile in. And look what happens. It starts to take it up again. So takes it up to 310, right? So if you take that, that's another trade. 275 to 310 is your trade there. You probably aren't going to hit the top. So let's call it 3, still a nice 25-cent trade. But now the exact same pattern that we saw here this morning is now in play again, right? The stock comes up, makes a high on volume, comes back in and starts to trade sideways. This is very healthy action. If this pulled all the way back down and gave everything back up, we would consider that unhealthy. But that's not what happened. It came back in a few cents, totally normal, came back in 14 cents, and then starts to trade sideways. And then you get the exact same volume expansion down here. It just starts to pour in, and then it takes out that day high. And this is where people are shorting it, right? They're shorting these at day highs. Well, guess what? Takes out 310. Let me make this a little bit easier to see. Takes out 310, starts to push all the way back up to 360. I'm going to mark this level too. Okay, then guess what happens? Oh, well, we're going to be very specific with our lines here. All right, makes a high at 360. If you're looking at the level 2 on your broker, you will see that this has a huge seller wall right there. As it starts to come back in, the buyers are stepping back up, and then boom, it actually takes it out twice. There's a refresh seller there at 310. And now anyone that's short from 310 and you're looking at a 360 break with volume pouring in here, what are you doing? You're racing the cover. You do not want to hold this over the weekend. If you're short, especially if you're short in size, you got big time problems going on. So right before we went on the show, the price is right in here, right? And then as we started talking, look what happened. It took out 360 on volume. Here we are at 391. You got another 31 cents of move here on this particular trade. The reason this happens is because of order flow. There's someone trying to short it, and the catalyst that keeps driving it higher. And this is how you can day trade off of headlines. You can recognize which stocks have some type of catalyst versus which stocks are being talked about in chat rooms, and then try to play those key levels here. For me, I played TCAT. I didn't play this last one. I played the 310 break. For me, I was looking for just a couple of cents, 5, 6, 7 cents, 2,000 shares. You don't even need a lot of money to execute this strategy. And while it might look like, $80, $90, $100 in a trade isn't really that much, the fact is that you're in that trade for a minute or 2 minutes, very, very quick, and you can repeat this process over and over again and stack those gains up. At the end of the day, those are going to add up to a real, real nice day.
My favorite part about this is I was talking with some of our colleagues about winners for this week, and Michael, one of our colleagues, actually called out this this ticker at 1:42 this afternoon Eastern time. And he said, "Watch TKAT, $2.73 at 1:42." So that was just kind of cool. I mean, you could have found this on the movers, on the scanner. There's lots of reasons you'd be watching this company on Benzinga Pro, but that's a great example of one of today's opportunities.
And you know what's cool about what you just said there, Jonathan, is that he spotted the same level that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
He spotted the exact same level. And guess what? When that level fell, bang, we're over $1 from that 275 level that he identified. Over $1 in an afternoon. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some exclusive news items. You can drive if you want to, or I can bring up my screen. But yeah, we had Hycroft Mining this week, obviously with the AMC acquisition or the shares that AMC purchased. That served as a very significant catalyst. And then you could see on our newsfeed where we had additional interactions with their company. So it looks like you were paying attention to this earlier on as well, right, Ryan?
Yeah. So we actually the movement, the day that this was traded was March 28th, and it was the exact same setup that I just showed you. By the way, TCAT 410 highs, just an absolute monster trade here happening live while we're doing it. Really exciting stuff. This trade is done the exact same way. You're basically letting the stock tell you what the key level is, and then you're playing the break of that key level. How much you actually let this run versus how much you actually hold this if it pulls back, that's going to be up to your risk tolerance. There isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer. And let me show you what I mean here about a right or wrong answer. We identify this 208 level right here, okay, on the chart. You guys can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, this level right here, this 208 level, this high that it made, we identify that. You buy that trying to break out. Me personally, I don't like to let things pull on me. Instead, I like to take a very small loss, wait for the setup again, and then make that money back. However, if you're someone that has a different risk tolerance than me, you might consider holding this. And so let's take a look at this. So this goes up to 208, and then it pulls all the way back to 181. Now that's like 30 cents. So that's almost 30 cents, 25 cents, 26 cents there. That's quite a bit. I would not want to hold through that. I mean, if you're looking at, think about it in terms of dollars. If you have 1,000 shares, you're down $260 on that pullback. That's kind of rough. But if you did hold it, you were rewarded because the buyers start to step back in, the volume expands, which is what we're used to seeing. It takes that level out, and then it goes as high as 240 in the regular session. And then in the next day, actually that same day in the after hours, it goes to 275. The next day, it goes up to 342 in the pre-market. And so this just goes to show you there's going to be multiple opportunities. Now, again, the way I like to take advantage of this is I like to get in and get out. If it pulls back, I take a very small loss and I wait for it to set back up. But there isn't one right way to trade this. The reason that this worked is because we had a great catalyst.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite scans on the scanner tool is looking for gainers for the day with over 500,000 shares traded, where it's surpassing those intraday highs. So you can see there in the after hours from, right there, how it was very clearly above the intraday highs, and then how it just continued to gap up the next morning.
Yeah, and remember, when you're in the after-hours session, stocks don't get halted like they do in the regular session. So sometimes you'll even have more outsized moves like this when the stock enters the regular session or the extended session, especially after it had a wild day. That's exactly what happened here.
All right, let's talk about Longeveron.
Yep.
Longeveron, this is a great example where Benzinga Pro actually had a news item 30 minutes before a press release came out.
I just wanted to go back to TCAT real quick because look at it. It's just unbelievable, my man. Unbelievable. But let's stick on task here and go Longeveron.
Did you end up taking that most recent trade?
No.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say we were getting ready for this show, but
if I took that, you would. Do you know who Pete Weber is? You would have had a Pete Weber moment from me if I had taken that trade. If I take a 360 break and the stock goes to 429 and I'm in several thousand shares, oh, I'm screaming, baby. You would know
right.
for sure.
I was gonna say, so Longeveron, let's check out the news tab here before we take a look at the the chart some more. And I think I'm going to switch the layout so we're on the side. So you can see here at 7:30 a.m.
That's Central Time, by the way.
Okay, perfect. So, really?
Yeah, no, let me make sure. Nope, sorry. I forgot that we released a new feature where you can set your time zone in Benzinga Pro, and I changed mine to Eastern Time. I'm so accustomed to it being in Central Time, I just say things instinctively. You're absolutely right. This is Eastern Time.
I think you're just making sure I was paying attention. I
was including Easter egg like Raz likes to do.
So anyways, you can see we had this exclusive at 7:30 a.m. that morning, and then at 8 o'clock the press release comes out, and this was a phase 1 trial. So that's interesting that we got this much price action off of a phase 1 trial being successful, and then but you can see how immediately right at 7:30 it took off. And then it was just kind of consolidating, maybe pulling back a little bit around 8 o'clock. And that just set you up for these volume expansions, not once, but 2 or 3 times later on in the day. They gave you some great day trading opportunities. But you could have scalped this first thing in the morning off of that exclusive news item, or, of course, later on in the day as well.
And by the way, I actually spoke to one of our Benzinga Pro clients reached out to me and was so excited. He wanted to talk about Longeveron. He did exactly what you were just saying, right? So there were multiple ways to hit this particular stock and make some money with it. He was buying it in the pre-market based on the exclusive news that we put out. And I think his price was like 840 or something. So he actually missed these first 2 sticks and bought it here. Now you'll notice 840 stock never comes back to 840. So this is what I like to call a feed up trade, right? And That's basically means you're sitting at your desk, you put your feet up on the desk, you don't have to worry about it, right? Because the stock's not going back and forth, it's not yanking back down a dollar, it doesn't even come back to your buy-in prices. It's much easier to hold if you're always in profit, and that's not always the case, believe me. So he got it in the pre-market, but let's say you had to take your kids to school, or you had something happen in the morning, you're driving in the office, it doesn't matter. Whatever it was that took you away from being able to act on the news item right in the pre-market, guess what? You still have the exact same setup for day trading that we just talked about. And you got multiple opportunities on Longeveron, excuse me. So we have this exclusive news in the morning. The market opens up, puts in a new high here at 1012. Let me actually zoom in here so we can see this a little bit better. Yep, puts in a new high here at 1012. Okay, so if you come back to your computer, you have no position here. We see that on really good volume with a catalyst, we've got a high of 1012. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, okay, if 1012 gets taken out on volume, there's probably going to be a trade here. Stop me if you've heard me say that before, Jonathan. So let's take a look at what happens. What's cool about this is this actually goes to show you the power of a range break or of a high of a day break. So look here at this candle in the 11:15. I got a 5-minute chart here because this happened several days in the past. I can't go that far back on a 1-minute chart. So I'm on the 5-minute chart here. You'll notice at this 11:15, we test this 1012 level. We can't quite get over it, and the stock yanks back down to 967. Quite a bit, right? That's quite a bit of pullback. Then in 11:25 5-minute window, we push back up to this 1012. Then we take it out. Then we're kind of jostling around this level, this 1012 level, and then bang, as that volume continues to grow, this stock pushes all the way up. So I'm telling you right now, looking at this now, if I'm in this stock on a 10-12 break and this stock pushes up near 12, I'm exiting. Okay, I'm exiting. I understand that this went another, $3, $2.50. I understand, but in the moment, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So it's important to understand how you behave as a trader when you see things materializing. In this case, a 10-12 break with this kind of volume, I mean, I might even exit at 11 and then wait for it to set back up, maybe buy a pullback as it comes back in, because the volume is telling me, hey, this thing ain't going anywhere yet. It is still pouring in here, and it's still pouring in here to the buy side. Now, once we get up to 12, it kind of stalls there. It actually breaks above 12 in this one candle, I think by a cent, but it kind of stalls at 12 there. Okay, take your gains, put them in your pocket, and move on. Well, what happens is the same thing that just happened. It pulls back down to like a 1080 level, trades sideways for a while. Looks like it's going to sell off, comes back to 1050, doesn't really go all the way back down, starts to pull back up, and then guess what? That volume starts to expand again. Buyers start to find it. Bang, we take out this 1203 level. We actually back test this level twice in 10 minutes, and then it continues to go up. So there are multiple opportunities to trade this. Again, I cannot stress it enough. The key here is going to be your news catalyst and your volume, and those two are related. When you have a catalyst, you're more often going to see that volume.
All right. And then another one here was MULN, Mullen Automotive. I believe this was off of our EV List Makers event. So Benzinga has all these different conferences that we do and events. And so we were actually interviewing this company's CEO on our List Maker event as the price was just ripping. So you can see there with those exclusive news items that's not available anywhere else. And so you could see from around 1 o'clock or so that, I mean, that's very clearly
it's absolutely there's no ambiguity here. Zero. Okay. Look at the size of this stick that happens in the 105 window. It literally takes the price from 227 to a high of 263 in one stick, and then the very next stick takes it as high as 290. Okay, that correlates perfectly with the exclusive headlines that are coming out here, and including this one happened at 104, right? So this guy's talking, like you said, Jonathan, this is the only place you're going to get it. Volume starts to pour in. What he's saying is clearly driving buyers to the stock, and look what happens. The thing takes off. And what's great about this one is that it actually doesn't come back. First of all, we're not even back to the level it broke out. This breakout level is about 229. We're still at 275. It's 2 days later. But the entire day after this happens, sure, there's some back and forth, but it ultimately it resolves higher. The next day, it actually tries to take this out, right out of the open here. It tries to take out the pre-market high. It's unable to do that, so it pulls back. But even so, even if you were in this from the day prior, you still have ample opportunity to sell. You're still up quite a bit here. This is another great example.
Awesome. Let's see here. And then I think today was Hudson Capital, HUSN. It's also on our list.
Yes, it is. Let's take a look at that. So HUSN. So this one here, this is this morning. Let me go ahead and do a 1 minute chart so we can get a more granular view of what's going on here. So a couple of things here. Number one, you show up to your computer, I showed up to my computer this morning. HUSN is on the movers tool, right? Because it's gapped up, right? We closed at 197. Here we are in the pre-market up $1. We're at 297 at the high anyway. All right. So one of the first thing that I'm going to do here is the same thing that I've been doing. I'm going to identify the tops of these levels because these are going to be important. We've already seen why. I'm just going to go ahead and mark them on the chart. Okay. So we've got these pre-market levels. This thing kind of drifts back in the pre-market right out of the open, looks a little weak, keeps trading down. You might think to yourself, well, why is that? Why is it trading down? Look at the volume. Volume is really minimal. There's nothing really here to speak of. And then guess what happens when the volume starts to show up? It just pours in and it takes these levels out. And again, these are tradable breaks. So this first one here, this 290, this 270, first of all, it's a round number. So the likelihood you're going to get a break there is high anyway. But it also corresponds to a high that we made in the pre-market. This is the pre-market today, April 1st. This correlates to the high, and we've got our other high marked off here. Well, what happens? Takes out that first one, then consolidates a little bit, and then takes out that second one and comes back in. Now it's coming back in. Now it's still trading sideways. So you know what this means, Jonathan? We're going to predict the future a little bit. As long as this holds up, as long as this trades sideways, consolidates, and holds this level, this is probably going to be in play on Monday. I don't know what's going to happen on Monday. I can't tell you if it's going to go higher. I'm going to play the hand that's dealt to me on Monday, but I've got levels marked off. I know what I'm looking for. If it, let's say we close right here or here thereabouts, 260, 250-ish area. What I'm going to be looking at on Monday is, hey, when we break 270, if we break 270 on volume, we've already seen this thing get ignited. It's going to get ignited. And if we break 297, guess where we're going next? 319. If we break 319, blue sky breakout, more opportunity here. So I'm already going to be watching this here on Monday.
We've seen a couple examples here of relatively low float stocks too. So, in addition to the movers tool, if you wanted to get a little bit more granular with what you're looking for, you could use the scanner tool and include that float filter. So you could say, oh, I want to see stocks that are up at least 15% this morning. That also have a float under 20 million. And that would give you some of these examples here that we've been looking at. And then you could just click through those and see, all right, which of these have actual news catalysts, and then map out these highs and lows, these different levels, just like Ryan and I have been doing. So the movers tool is nice because of how simple it is, but on the scanner, you can get more granular with some of those additional filters.
And Jonathan, so while you were talking, look what I did. I went ahead and I added the low float filter under 20 million. I consider anything under 20 million low float. Under 10 million or 5 million might be micro float, whatever you want to call it. And then change percent from previous close, 15%. Look what's at the top of our list here.
Right.
TCAT. And what's cool about that is, Jonathan, you were talking about reviewing the news. If you combine the scanner and the details tool in Benzinga Pro, it makes this incredibly easy, right? So we can look at the chart, or we click on news, and now it's like we've got a list of these stocks here. We can just click down here, see if there's any news. GRE reported earnings. That makes sense. MN, let's see. Manning & Napier will be acquired by Calodyne. So maybe this one is not necessarily tradable because it's an acquisition.
Right.
Here's HUSN. I'm looking at CSSE. Here's HUSN. Here's Black Box Stocks. They reported earnings. DLPN. This is another NFT name related to TCAT. So maybe that's moving in sympathy. HTCR moved big today. So I really appreciate you shouting that out, because the scanner tool, it allows you to become very granular, and you can very easily review charts, news flow, whatever it is that you need.
And just, I'm sure if anyone new is on here, they're going to ask again, all right, what were those filters that you were adding? Again, it's the change percent previous close greater than 15% and a share float of less than 20 million. And that middle green column header that Ryan has is change percent previous close. If you wanted to, you could also click on those plus buttons next to, say, share float, and you could add that to your table if you just want a quick reference of the float there as well.
Yeah, and what I've done here is I've sorted this. I've sorted this to see the change percent highest at the top. But if you, for example, wanted to say, okay, well, show me the lowest float. Okay, ISIG, let's take a look and see what ISIG is doing. Well, look, the lowest float stock had, I'm getting, Jonathan, I can't even believe how much I'm repeating myself today. It's worth it though. So yesterday, ISIG puts in a high of $12.99. Let's just call it 13. And guess what happens today? Do you really think that it's a coincidence that the biggest volume stick of the day happens when yesterday's high is getting taken out? I don't. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. This thing runs $1.50 from that.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, these tools, it's just, it makes it really easy to find opportunity here.
Jay Rice is talking about transports. He says transports down almost 900. We only have a couple minutes left here, but he was just asking if we had any thoughts on transports getting hammered today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dow transports are the transport stocks. We don't have that data in Pro here, so I can't pull up a chart for it. I'm sorry about that. The transports are often a leading indicator. There are a lot of people that like to look at the transports because that often signifies that, hey, you know, this is, if the transports are down, maybe the market's going to be down too. Well, look at the market today. We are definitely down. Okay. I guess the Dow's up by 30. ES is, we're about flat, actually, I guess. But let's see what happens on Monday, right? We had the Dow transports down, what, 900 today. Let's see what happens on Monday. If you're down on Monday, Jay Rice, I think it's going to be time for you to make a victory lap, my friend.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely looking at the interaction between those sectors across the market.
And he was also asking about thoughts on that. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Jonathan. He was also asking for thoughts about that. If you're setting up a trade, you think, are we going to be higher or lower next week? I'm going to hold something over the weekend to trade that. Maybe you would look at the transports. For what we're talking about here with some of these day trading headline opportunities, I mean, frankly, I almost want to say it's easier in a down market because it makes it easier to find relative strength, right? Stocks that are bucking the overall market trend are going to attract eyeballs, right? In a sea of red, the couple of stocks that are green, people are going to look to those, or the long bias traders are going to look to those. So, you know, you had said nobody seems to care. We don't necessarily care for what we're trying to do here. But if you're trying to predict where the market's going to go, sure, you absolutely want to take a look at the transports.
And then just to wrap it up here, let's see, who said NEM at 34-year highs? Yeah, up 4% today. NEM Newmont Corp looks like a mining corporation. So if you're looking for stocks that are breaking out, you can see that there's been some huge volatility in this over the years. If you went to, say, the monthly chart, as I was just checking that stat on the 34-year high. But you can see that it's, it had a high in, I think, 2011, around $72. So again, just, it's not rocket science, right? Just paying attention to the levels, looking to the left, and when it breaks through those levels on significant volume or on overall catalysts for, say, metals and mining, then you can get, more space to the upside.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. And then let's see here. Vic is saying, what's your thoughts on Nile? Got one more minute left here.
All right. So this is a Bitcoin miner play. I'm looking at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin has had a lot of volatility recently. Vic, my personal opinion on a lot of these stocks that are tied to the Bitcoin market, I can't necessarily understand the connection or verify the connection. So I generally speaking don't trade these on the story. Meaning if the story is that BitNile is supposed to have one of the most one of the best Bitcoin mining portfolios or Bitcoin mining that or the other. I don't necessarily care personally. I would rather own or trade the coins. However, these stocks love to move with the price of Bitcoin. And if you find a way to technically trade this, you could be very profitable. So my thoughts on this, I would not invest in this personally. That's a me thing. That doesn't mean it can't work. It's just I would rather trade a name like this, especially something that's under $1. I would much rather trade this than own it and hope for the best. You can see here today, we're down 7 cents. We're down 9% on this name here today. And Bitcoin is actually up 1.3%. So again, this is kind of what I mean with, I'm not necessarily sure what the connection is. That's not enough for me to make a longer term investment, but I would not be opposed to short-term day trading.
Awesome. Well, just as a recap really quick before we call it a weekend, pay attention to those exclusive news items. A lot of these movers, you could have gotten in on these before anyone else, especially with those exclusive news items. Use the scanner on Benzinga Pro. Start your free trial with a link in the description. And I'll see you next week.
Take care.